So here we are in 2024. I don't know about you guys, but 2023, it was an odd year. Sure, it had its ups, it had its downs, but overall, it was a very inconsistent year. And I guess that's not too surprising given where inflation is at, where interest rates went to. But let's take a minute, let's look back in time. Let's look back at 2023. Let's look at the numbers, the benchmark price. Let's look at some new construction numbers and see how they impacted the inventory and see if we can get our heads wrapped around it. And maybe at the end of this video, we're gonna get into a couple of predictions and maybe see where things are gonna go to in 2024. So let's get right on into it. Back in 2023 last year, there was 12,978 homes or properties sold on MLS. That's a dip from 14,660 in 2022. And when we break that into two different categories, residential and condominium, that residentially, there was 9,007 sales. That's actually a 12.10% decrease in volume from the previous year. And here's where it gets interesting. The average selling price of a residential detached home in Winnipeg was $399,430, which was actually a 3.46% decrease in average home prices from 2022. Now, obviously, real estate is about as safe an investment as you can find, but it doesn't always go up. And last year was one of those years where we saw a little bit of a clawback. Now, if you really dive into the numbers, you'll find that the homes between that $300,000-$400,000 range, which was really the bulk of where a lot of the activity was, those homes probably went up a little bit. And as you got a little bit higher, you were going to see a major decrease. So all in all, it netted us a 3.5% decrease in the average home price sale in Winnipeg. In condominiums, there was 1,949 condominiums sold, which was a 10.72 decrease in volume. So both categories saw a decrease in volume, but the average selling price of a condominium at $259,420 was only 1.95% less than the previous year. So all in all, that's not really much of a decrease. So I would suggest that they somewhat held their own from 2022 to 2023. When we look at the months, it's no surprise that May and June were the busiest months, but it is a little surprising that April was as slow as it was. Typically, April in Winnipeg, the market really starts to chug along, but there was a disparity of about 500 units sold from April moving up to May, and then another 100 units sold more than that in June. So, a little bit extra time to get that market going last year, and I'm kind of expecting it to be very similar to be the case this year, although I do expect a larger scale up, but we'll get to that in a little bit. Now, as far as the percentage of homes last year, and here's where the dichotomy comes in, 29% of the homes, of residential homes, went above the asking price last year, nearly 30%. And when I look at that, in 2022, it was 44%. So there has been a reduction of the amount of homes that have been going above the listing price. But for a year that was, let's face it, a lot of doom and gloom, you still got nearly 30% of the homes went over asking price, which is pretty good. Again, I would suggest that a majority of those were in that 300,000 to 400,000 range, and we'll kind of see and keep our eye on that to see where that happens here in this upcoming year. Now, days on market is an interesting statistic. Days on market will really give you some insight on whether are we in a buyer's market or a seller's market, or is it balanced. And to put some context on that, 2021, the average days on market was 14 days. And then in 2022, it only went up 2 days to 16 days. But really, when you go back to 2022, you could probably break it into 2 years. The first half was likely a dropped average because of the lower interest rate. And then as the rate started to go up mid-year, that second half, it probably went above the average, but it netted it out at 16 days on market, which brings us into last year, 2023, where it went to 20 days, average days on market. So that's telling me, obviously, in that really busy range, well-located, well-priced range, those homes were obviously lower. They were selling right away. but it tells me that ones that were outside of that might have been taking a month, taking 2 months, or even longer to sell, bringing those average days on market up. Now, my favorite statistic is benchmark price. Let's have a look at this graph here. So the benchmark price deals with somewhat of a average home. And, so in Winnipeg, an average bungalow would be something built in the early 1970s, around a 1,200 square foot range, 3-bedroom finished basement. The 2-story would be approximately, 1,400 square feet, built in the mid 1980s. So the benchmark price in Winnipeg to start the year was $342,200. You can see here it did go up to $367,100 in May at the height of the market, and then it kind of corrected back down to $346,600. So really it kind of ended the year the way it started the year. Not a lot of growth in the benchmark price. For those who sold with the activity in May, they maybe saw a little bit of an increase, but it certainly is quite a bit lower than where we saw the pinnacle back in May 2022 at $388,400. Now, new construction numbers are something that not a lot of people talk about. I think the new home construction is interlinked with resale in the city of Winnipeg. Listen, builders are going to build more homes to meet demand. And when you look at the numbers of new construction over the last year and even 2 years, there's a bit of a telling story here. So when I look at 2023, and I'm speaking specifically of residential homes, single detached homes, there was 932 homes built in 2023. Now, in comparison to 2022, where there was 1,221, that was a 24% decrease in the amount of homes being built. And here's where it gets interesting on this facet. When you go to 2022, where I mentioned there was 1,221 homes built, that was 25% lower to 2021. So in 2 years, we've seen a reduction of nearly 50%. Now, there's a number of reasons for that. It could be there's a number of subdivisions that have been nearing their completion. There's less land available. Obviously, the cost of construction materials skyrocketed post-COVID, making the value proposition on new homes a little less desirable. But it also very much is a fluid number because it takes so long to build these homes that you really got to dive into how long these homes took to build and how backed up the builders were. So it will be interesting to look at this number after 2024. We're going to get a real clear picture. Are things beginning to pick up, or are they stalemating? And we all know that new construction is very good for the economy on a number of different levels. All real estate sales are very good for the economy. So seeing things turn around would be a good thing for the city of Winnipeg. If you're looking for more information that would be more specific to the area that you're in, whether you're in Charleswood or River Park South, Transcona, North Kildonan, let me know. I can put together the numbers and forecasts of what we think is going to happen in those areas going forward. Feel free to reach out on that. Now, let's break open that crystal ball. Let's kind of make some predictions here, what we think is going to happen here in 2024. Well, I hate really talking about interest rates because I don't really know. Like you, I've listened and read articles and listened to economists and prognosticators. It sounds like we're going to get under 5% here going probably towards the end of the year, maybe as early as the summertime. I think that's the hope. The hope is that we're going to get under 5%, and hopefully that will be enough to infuse some consumer confidence into the buyers, get the sellers excited, and we get maybe a little bit more activity towards the latter half. I think 2024 is going to need a lot more runway to get going, to get that plane in the air. It's going to basically come in like a lamb, but it's going to go out like a lion, really setting itself up for a buoyant 2025. The benchmark price, however, I predict by the end of the year will have come up from that 346.6 mark, and it will be somewhere around that 375 mark. Now that's significant because that really means that the upper price range needs to start moving a little bit, where it has gone a little bit stagnant. So again, that's a prediction. I'd be excited to kind of look at this and maybe replay that clip a year from now to see if I was right or if I was out to lunch. We'll find out. Hey, listen, if you like this video, click subscribe, share it with a friend. The next video that I'm gonna do, we're gonna look at the top 3 hottest areas in Winnipeg and the bottom 3 slowest areas. Hey, if you're in one of those hottest areas, good for you. If you're not, don't worry about it. The Winnipeg market is about as balanced and consistent as you can find. We'll talk to you later.